What is going on, you guys? I am coming to you today with an Armada video, and we're going to talk about huge ships. This is one of the things that I get asked an awful lot, so I just figured I would do a video to talk about it today. A lot of people say, well, what are the Rebels going to get? Are the Rebels going to get a huge ship, just like the Superstar Destroyer? And I don't really think they will, but I'm going to talk about some different huge ships that I think could potentially show up, how they could show up. And I also have winners to announce today as well. There's some giveaway winners, so stay tuned to the end of the video for that as well. With that being said, let's jump right in to the first question I get asked all the time is, are the Rebels going to get a huge ship? Now, the huge ships are an official type, which is kind of cool. I'm not going to lie. First off, I kind of want to talk about what huge ship really means, because not everything that the Superstar Destroyer that the Empire is getting is the same as a huge ship. Now, huge ships are going to get some special things, but I don't think they necessarily all have to be two large bases at that same exact distance apart from each other in the way that we see the Superstar Destroyer. I think it's also, in theory, likely that we can see two large ship bases side by side for maybe wider ships that might require more support, because not all ships are designed the same in Star Wars. And so I think, huge ships can basically be defined by any ship that has maybe multiple bases or things like that. Might be a possible way to define them as well, since they're not doing a custom base for the Superstar Destroyer. So I just want to get that out of the way, because some of the ships I'm going to talk about are kind of oddly shaped and may not work in the same type of stand method that the Superstar Destroyer has. So first off, I do want to talk about, if the Rebels do get a huge ship, I think it would obviously be the Viscount. And this is the problem is all right, so the Viscount was this huge Mon Calamari ship from Legends, and there's a couple of reasons why I don't think this is going to come. First off, I want to talk about symmetry. The good guys and bad guys, your two factions don't always need to be perfectly symmetrical. So just because, we have seen some symmetry before, like each side got a flotilla at the same time, and each side got their first large ship at the same time, not everything has to be symmetrical. For example, the Corset has only one Imperial ship, but two Rebel ships, right? And now with the Superstar Destroyer, we're getting two more Imperial commanders, but nothing for the Rebels. So, we don't necessarily have to have perfect symmetry with these factions. And as a matter of fact, it seems more thematic for the Rebels not to have a huge ship, because huge ships seem to be something that the bad guys tend to have and the good guys tend to not have. That being said, if they did want to pull in a ship, this was definitely probably the number one most expected or anticipated for the Rebellion. But the other thing that makes me think that this won't happen is just because it bears such a strong resemblance to the Episode 8, the Radis, that, and it's not exactly the same, but it's just so similar that I just don't think that they'll do that, because I think that would end up confusing. There might be some brand confusion if they were to do something like that. Next up, I'm referencing the expanded Hangar Bay promo card that has been going around recently. There was this ship on the back that there was a lot of discrimination or discussion whether was this the Assertor or the Bellator. So I'm going to talk about the Bellator because I actually ordered one of these from Mel Miniatures. There was a huge delay on Shapeways where it was finished and sat in the warehouse for 9 straight days. I emailed Shapeways about it, and this isn't Mel's fault. This is Shapeways just finished printing something out. And I think it's because they want you to pay for expedited shipping that they just said, well, he didn't pay for expedited shipping, so even though we could ship it now, we're going to let it sit in our warehouse for 9 whole days before we take it to UPS, which was just absolutely nonsense. So I'm annoyed, and I've sent them a couple of emails about it. I'm like, why would you do this? Like, I don't know. Anyway, that being said, the Bellator is... it's like a sister ship to the Mandator class, which was in Legends, but now the Mandator class is canonized because we've got Mandators in Last Jedi. So, but this was an alternative style ship. It's not quite as big as the Executor, but it's still like technically it's a Star Dreadnought, but it's just about, it's almost as big as a Superstar Destroyer, and I believe it's classified as a Superstar Destroyer, but it was built for speed rather than as much power, but it was a very, very good ship. And one of the things that I like about this ship, and the reason I ordered one from Mel Miniatures, is because of the fact that because it's not going to be quite as big, I think it serves as a really good option for maybe to use as a placeholder of the cheapest version of the Superstar Destroyer, the prototype. Because hey, if it's not going to be as big as the full thing, maybe a smaller ship is going to be more appropriate for a smaller cost. Anyway, it'll probably be great, and hopefully it'll be a nice stand-in while we wait many months for the Superstar Destroyer to show up. And then when I get them both, then it'd be kind of cool. All right, so that's the Bellator. And of course, the Eclipse, which is canonized now. The Eclipse was heavily in Legends. Now, we don't know what the newly canonized version of the Eclipse looks like. That is definitely, one of those things. We have every reason to believe that they'll at least give it that chin that's on the front there to make it kind of close. But it may get a little bit of restructuring. It may get a little bit of redesign. I do still expect it to have that chin because there's two things that I think are iconic about the Eclipse, and I think it's the chin as well as the color black. It's not Imperial Gray like a lot of the other stuff. Now, this is a ship that was canonized by being in the Aftermath trilogy, and it was mentioned there, and is also a ship that was sent forward to help found the First Order. So I would not be surprised if this ship shows up in the show Resistance at some point. And a lot of the Resurgent class Star Destroyer would be a really nice way to kind of I think there's some design inspirations there that the new finalizer and stuff kind of may have taken from some of the images of the Eclipse. And so it would actually, canonically, it would make sense for the First Order to say, hey, we borrowed some design schematics from the Eclipse, which would be kind of cool. But I would love to see the Eclipse show up as well at some point. Now the question is, would it be First Order or Empire? Because you could easily make the argument for both, and it could be, and of course, First Order is assuming a whole bunch of things. So speaking of First Order, let's jump into factions, right? If they ever get to where they start doing First Order and Resistance factions for this game, we'll be in sequel trilogy territory for this game. I don't expect that to happen anytime soon because I almost prefer them to wait until after Episode 9 comes out. I want Resistance to open up a whole lot of ships that are available and that are canon. But then I want Episode 9. I really, really expect a huge space battle out of Episode 9. We know this Mandator 4 Dreadnought from the First Order would be great. It's not as big as a Superstar Destroyer, but it's still big enough to be huge. Now, this is one of those ships, because it was so wide, I would expect to be on two bases side by side, as opposed to just one in front of the other. Could go either way. It's kind of like a bigger slice of pizza than a normal one. It's like a fat slice of pizza. Because it's so wide, I could see that being a thing. However, I think this one would just be ideal for Armada. It's not too big, but it's big. It's iconic. They had a great battle with this ship. I really like, granted, a lot of the battle took place over the top of this ship, so it might not be perfect. This might also make a really good X-Wing playmat or something like that. But, I think this is definitely an option if they were to do First Order factions. Then the Supremacy, I think this one's much less likely because, in my opinion, and I know a lot of people said a Superstar Destroyer was way too big. In my opinion, even this is way too big. However, it all depends on how recognizable, how iconic. By the time Episode 9 concludes, are people still going to look back at the Supremacy and say that was the iconic ship from the First Order? And if so, then maybe there's going to be justification for doing it. But I don't really want to see it. I think if you did, it would be absurdly large. And people could have easily made that argument about the Superstar Destroyer, and they definitely slid the scale down on the Superstar Destroyer a tremendous amount. Because I believe the idea was that visually recognizing a ship was more important than the scale being super accurate, and I have no problem with that. But in this case, the whole purpose of it was that it was absurdly large, and I don't know. I mean, But this is, I guess for me, this is where I draw the line. I wouldn't want to see this, just because I think it would be way too big, and I could potentially see it as taking up all of the map, like one whole side of the map. But then it would have to be an objective and not an actual flyable ship or something like that. I think this is better for a homebrew scenario. If somebody wanted to make one of these, because for them to release something like this, the whole size of the map, you're looking at probably like $1,000 ship. And maybe, reasonably, they could probably print it for less, but maybe $500 or so. And I don't want to spend $500 for a ship that I can't actually fly. I'd rather just be somebody homebrewed it, made it out of like foam and and things like that, and it would play a fun custom scenario at one point. I have much less of a problem with that. But yeah, and now, of course, now we're back to the Resistance, and this is, I think, maybe the only instance we're going to get of the good guys having a huge ship. The Raddus, definitely the largest good guy ship that I think we're going to see. And, you could even make the argument that this doesn't have to be huge. This might just be a large ship, but I think it'd be a huge ship. It was definitely significantly, like an order of magnitude larger than the Home one. And so I have no problem with this one being a huge ship, for the Resistance. I don't want the Rebels to have it. I want us to be future different factions. But again, I want this to be after the fact, after Episode 9, because there may be more of them by then. This may not be the only one in the galaxy. There could be some that have been stolen, or some that were hidden, or things like that, or some that were just decommissioned. Maybe they didn't have the manpower to crew all of the MC-85s that they had, so there were a couple still underwater, at Mon Cala or something like that. We don't know, and so and maybe with the rebirth of the Rebellion, Resistance, or whatever, that all right, we can recrew these ships now. We've got 3 more that we can bring to the final battle. Something like that would be cool. It'd give you some more titles. It'd give you some more different configurations and make for a cool space battle. So I think this one would be a great one for that. And then we're jumping into Clone Wars factions. The Lucre Hulk. Again, I think only the bad guys are going to have the huge ships from the Clone Wars factions. The Lucre Hulk would be another side-by-side as opposed to forward-by-forward, because this one's more wide than it is long. But yeah, I think and I think this one would just be ideal, especially you have it underneath the 2 arms of the donut, two bases underneath there. Would love it. Would love for this one to be a huge ship. This one, it's got Armada, I think, written all over it, to be a huge carrier, probably lower on the weapons category, and it could still have the 6 arcs too, and you would just draw them more circular rather than. It could even have a circular base if they wanted to get fancy with it. That would require them engineering a whole new base, so probably not. Probably just be 2 rectangular bases, but with the arcs drawn more of in a pizza circular fashion. But I think that's more realistic, but that's still cool. Still like it. And of course, the Malevolence, or the Subjugator Heavy Cruiser, I think is going to be a really, really a high point for the game. This one has gameplay written all over it, as far as I'm concerned. Probably the biggest ship in the Clone Wars, and Grievous's flagship. And the thing is, it has this custom ion cannon, which is super awesome. It has a super weapon, and I think that would really, really work well in the game, because it takes a while to charge up. So even in the episode where you see this in the Clone Wars, it feels balanced for gameplay, because it shoots this blast, a slow-moving blast that fighters can easily dodge, but larger ships maybe not so easily. So it's a slow-moving blast, and it takes a while to charge up. So maybe it's like you get 1 shot per game with it, and it can't be on turn 1, right? Something like that. And so this thing could create its own gameplay structure of dodge the ion cannon shot, while trying to take down this immensely huge ship. Love it. I love the idea of it. I think it has so much gameplay. Everything about the Clone Wars has Armada written all over it, as far as I'm concerned. But that's what I think. Let me know what you guys think as far as huge ships coming to Armada. I do expect for these other factions that it'll be a long time. Like I said, with the sequel factions, I think those won't come until after Episode 9. And I think the Clone Wars factions will probably not come out until after X-Wing and Legion Clone Wars factions come out. Because I think they're going to want to see how X-Wing and Legion do and how the reception is to those once they're actually previewed and pre-orders go up. And if nobody pre-orders them, then they're like, well, maybe this wasn't a good idea. But if all of a sudden pre-orders sell out, then that might give the green light for Armada to go ahead. That's kind of the way that I'm viewing things, and we'll see. We will see. So let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below. Also, let me know what you think about my new logo down there. I had actually hired somebody to do one, and they took my money and ran, so I had to kind of do it myself, and so we'll see. I don't know if I'm going to stick with that or not, but I kind of like it. All right, we have some winners to talk about. Some winners. First off, Patreon winner for the Legion Snowspeeder and Alt Art Darth Vader Gen Con promos. And that is going to be Clinton L. Medovich. Congratulations, Clinton, and thank you for your continued support. Go ahead and send me a message on Patreon, and I will get your shipping information, and I'll get those out to you as soon as possible. Next up is the winner for the Armada core set in the form of a Cool Stuff gift card. That is Christopher Lott. Congratulations, Christopher. Thank you so much for entering. Thank you to everybody who entered. Christopher, go ahead and send me a message on the back end of my YouTube channel, and I will get your contact information, and we will get you squared away with that Cool Stuff gift card, and hopefully you'll be good to go. So I want to thank you guys so much. If you are new here, I do giveaways like this periodically. Actually, pretty frequently. So generally all you have to do to enter a giveaway is become a subscriber and leave a comment. And so, hop on board. Don't click that bell for alerts. I want to thank everybody so much for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. What do you think the next ships are going to be, if we're going to get any more huge ships? Or do you think this was the only one? Do you think, or it could be that maybe they just want to see how well this one sells before they decide to make any more. Granted, there's a lot of huge ships out there that don't have to be quite as big as a Superstar Destroyer, especially for prequel factions for Clone Wars, which I'm still really hoping for. But I'd love to hear what you guys think. I want to thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.